Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this video we're going to show you how to create emails based off an appointment and send those emails that include an add to calendar attachment in which the recipients can quickly add it to their own calendars, whether they're on an iPhone or whether they're on Android or Outlook, as well as we're going to include a link with that where they can quickly add it to their own Google Calendar. So please stay tuned. It's going to be a fantastic training. Okay, let's get started. Now, in previous videos, we have had scheduled appointments, and I have shown you how to add them to our calendars, our Google calendars, and our Outlook. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to send an email so that the people receiving our scheduled appointments can add them to their calendars, can add it to their iCalendar or Google Calendar or Outlook or whatever email they use. And essentially, we can do that with just two different types of formats. One is called an ICS file. And when we send an ICS file, it can be read by both Outlook and many Google calendars. And that's this thing here. You may have seen it. Some professional companies will send you these files so that you can quickly add it to your calendar simply by double clicking on it, and then it adds it to your calendar really simply. And in this case, I'm using Outlook, so it'll send it to mine. But if you were to receive this on your phone, it would add it to your phone's calendar, and hopefully whether you're on an iPhone or Android device, it should be recognized and added very quickly. And it's a really a great thing when you can make it very easy for those people receiving your emails to add their appointments to their calendar. And as well, in Google's instance, for Google Calendar, they do this by creating a link. So when you want to add to a Google Calendar, you simply click the link and then you can click save, and it adds all the information to the appointment. And in this training video, what we're going to do is we're going to show you many of those things. We're going to show you, one, how to create an email and how to create that appointment, how to add a file attached to it, and how to create a Google link. All right, so we're going to get started. Now, let's go ahead and go over the first one, and this is an ICS file. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to take appointment information, whether it's an appointment date, appointment time, the duration, okay? And what we want to do is we want to put all that into an ICS file, and then we want to attach and send that, okay? Now, it can get a little bit tricky, and I found some fantastic solutions. What can be tricky is that if you're sending to somebody in another time zone, we need to make sure that the times are consistent. So 8 a.m. here, let's say you have a webinar and you're sending your webinar out to let's say 8 a.m. To everybody in many countries. You want to make sure that when they receive that file, when they receive that schedule, it is actually in their time zone. So 8 a.m. for you may very well not be 8 a.m. for them. And so what we do then is we convert that to what's called UTC time zone, okay? I am currently in UTC +7 here in Vietnam. So in this case, 8 a.m. For me is actually 1 a.m. UTC. So the times that we're going to be sending are this, and this is the start time and this is the end time. So what we've done is we've converted that using a function. We've converted this time using a function to this time, and I'll show you that function. Okay, and then all we've done is taken this duration and added it to the start time to get the end time. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. And now the start time is actually two combined cells. Okay, what it is the appointment date plus the appointment time. The appointment date itself, essentially, if it's just a date, is 12 a.m. on that date. So let's say you want to make it 2 a.m., you would need to add 2 hours, right? So you want to add. So if this is 8 a.m., that's essentially 8 hours. So what we're doing is we're combining the appointment date and the appointment time to get both the date and the time. In Excel, remember, dates and times are numbers. They're numbers, and then they're formatted, okay? Dates are whole numbers, times are decimal numbers. So if we were to change this, let's go ahead and change this to a number so we can see. Okay, this is how it actually looks. Okay, 43164, that is the date, March 5th. 0.04, and in fact it's a little bit more than that if we increase the decimals. 0.041667 is actually 8 a.m. So when they're combined and then formatted, that's how they're on for a date. Let's go ahead and format that back to what we had. That in this format you can find here, and I've put it at both the date and time format, which you can see right here. Okay, so, and you can format it any which way you feel comfortable. Okay, so that is fine there. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that it is these times that are added into the ICS file, and as well as the Google link. Okay, so, and we do this through a function. Now this is the function. Basically it's a very simple function. I did not write the function. It is a fantastic function, and there's a lot of great different functions on the web, and I'll go over how we obtain that. But basically all it does is it takes the time, H5 here, and it converts it to UTC. And UTC, or otherwise known as GMT, it's important to get that in the form because that's universal throughout the globe. So we want to make sure we get it in those times. So when we send it, right, make sure to put it in their proper times on the actual. And I've put these in gray because you may want to hide these. It's not necessary to view, so you may want to, it is a very important column, but it's not important to view. So I put those in gray. You may want to hide those columns, okay? But for our purposes, we will show them to you. Now let's go ahead and take a look at an IC file, okay? And I have one here, and I want to go over it with you. And on the surface, it looks like, let's go ahead and clear that out so we can send another one. Okay, we'll send the reminder email, and we'll go over how that's done. And here's the file. What I want to do is, if I double click this, it's just going to open up into the calendar, which is great, but I want to see what's inside it. Okay, I want to see what's inside it. So let's go ahead and save this to our desktop, save as. Okay, and I'll put it right on my desktop here. Okay, and then I'm going to go into the desktop, and we're going to open that up. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a software. Here it is. There's the file, and I'm going to use a software called Notepad or Notepad++, which is really a great program. And it basically allows us to see what the contents of this are, and that's going to be helpful, right? So I've opened this up with a different program, and so that we can see what is in this ICS file. Okay, basically it's a few lines of code, and we're just going to say begin calendar, and then it's going to list a version, and then you can put some information here, and then the scale of the calendar. That's pretty much consistent throughout. There are so many different things that you can add to this. You can add reminders, you can add locations, you can add anything that belongs to events. So I urge you to expand on this, okay? You can add tons and tons of information to these, but we're going to keep it as a minimum so that this training doesn't last hours. Okay, so then we have the beginning of our events called V event, okay? V calendar, V event, okay? The date stamp is the current date, okay? And it's in the format. Here's the format. Let me see if I can zoom that in for you. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Now you can see it. Okay, 2018 is the year, okay? March is the month. That's the current when I'm recording this today. Today is the 5th of March. Okay, so in all of these date formats, they're going to follow the same format. The year in 4 digits, the month in 2 digits, okay, the day in 2 digits, and then T for time. That's important, time. Okay, again, 12 is the hour, yeah, okay, 36, it's now 36 is the minute, 42 seconds, and then the Z, that denotes the UTC time zone. Okay, so that is the format that we want. Any dates that come in that should be in that format, okay? And now we have our actual start. When are we going to start this, okay? This tells us it's in UTC time zone. Okay, that's important because when someone receives it, it'll automatically adjust for their current time zone, and that's the critical part. This has to adjust. So if you're in a different time zone, the time will adjust accordingly. Okay, again, the year, 4 digits, the month, okay, the day, time, and so this appointment, right, this appointment starts at 1 a.m. 1:00 minutes 00 seconds, 1 a.m. UTC time, okay? And if you look back on our thing, and if you look back on UTC time, 8 a.m. changes to 1 a.m. So if we were to change this to 9 a.m., all right, you'll see that this changes to 2 a.m. Okay, so automatically UTC is adjusted. So what goes into the V calendar is the UTC time, and then the ending is the same, except we're ending. It's a 2 hour. Let me just check. What we have that 1 hour. Okay, it's a 1 hour, right? So we're starting here at 1 a.m. UTC and ending at 2 a.m. Okay, so that's it. Then we have a summary. We can put any text we want in here. Okay, any text you want. Okay, what I've done is I've created a variable summary, and we'll go over that, how we did that. And then we have a description here. Also, we can put in any description here. We have a location. You can put in anything you want here. And then we're just going to end out. We're going to end it with vEvent and end, because we started with those. Okay, begin vCalendar, begin vEvent. So we need to end those. And that is it. Okay, so that is how we do it. And now we'll go over how we created that. Back into Excel we go, and let's go ahead and take a look at the Visual Basic code so we can see what's going on here. Into the Developers tab, clicking on Visual Basic here, or Alt F11. If you do not have the Developers tab, you can go into Options and then go into the Customize ribbon and click on the Developers. Make sure that's selected here. All right, here we go, Alt F11. And to the developers code, we have just two different modules here. And one is for that time zone, okay? And this time zone here, basically this function allows us to convert times to UTC. We won't go into the details of this because it's not part of the core training, but just know that when you use this, you enter this function here, and it will convert any time you have to UTC time. That is its only purpose, and I've shown you how that works. All right, let's go ahead and go into that. Let me go ahead and rename this. Send emails, okay. Mac. Okay, so that is how to rename a module. And you want to make sure you rename your modules so that they're distinct, so you can see them apart. And let's go ahead and end this. In this particular one, we don't have any on-sheet code, okay? Let's go ahead and see. So our first macro is to send reminder emails. And let's go ahead and go over some of the sheets. And I've got two sheets, so I'll go over the details. And I have a list of names, appointment dates, appointment times, durations, and then some information, email address. And then I have a reminder sent. And the reason I have this reminder sent is because I don't want to send, when I'm sending emails, I want to make sure that I only send to those people who I have not sent before. So if I click this button, nothing is going to be created unless I actually delete or clear out one of those. And then if I click it again, we'll get an email that's been created. And so this ensures that emails don't get sent twice. And once an email is created, the reminder sent, the date and current time are entered in this. Okay. So we also have another sheet, and basically this is our email sheet. And this is, we want to send some type of a format. And we'll zoom in here a little bit. We want to send an email format. We want to be able to customize that format. And I want to do a few options. One, I want to select, should this email be displayed first? Now you'll see when I create those emails, they get displayed automatically. They don't get sent. And the reason is I've got this checkbox selected. If I were to unselect this, those emails would be sent automatically without showing up. But for our purposes, because I do want to show you what's going on here, I want to make sure to select that. So we'll get that selected. And how I've done that, this basically is a simple option box, checkbox. And you'll see that when I click Format Control, the linked cell is B4, okay, B4, which is here. So basically, it's simply a true or false. When I unselect it, the option becomes false. When I select it, the option becomes true. So the only thing you know is that B4 is our linked cell for display emails. When this is true, we must display the emails before sending. When this is false, they get sent automatically. Okay, the other option is, should we send an ICS file? Now, ICS is that file that we're focused on, and I've got an option of yes or no. You may want to have it as no, but for our purposes, we're going to send it to yes. And if you've seen any of my past videos before, we have used email frequently because it's such a powerful feature. And we do always include these variables. And in this video, we have 5 different variables where we can include the first name or the last name. And that means when the email is sent, this will get actually replaced by the person's first name, okay? This appointment date will get replaced by the actual appointment date, and this will get replaced by appointment time. So you yourself can use many different variables, and in this case, we have a Google link, and this Google link is that calendar link. So when we send it, it says, you may also wish to add the appointment of your Google Calendar with this link, and in this is the Google link. But you'll notice that when the email gets created, you'll see that that gets replaced with the actual link. You see, the actual link is replaced, okay? And the name is replaced by the actual name. The dates are, replaced. So all those variables get replaced with variable data. So that's really, really powerful. So although we have been over that before, I'm moving a little quick because we have been over that ability in the past. So I wanted to go over that with you, and so you could see how that works. And so we have 5 variables here, and just the new one is the Google link, okay? And we're going to show you how to build that a little bit later on, but first I wanted to go into how we actually built the ICS file, okay? And back into Visual Basic, and we'll close this out. We don't need that. So in this macro, right, we've dimensioned a few information. Outlook application and Outlook mail, those are both objects, okay? And that's called late binding because I've defined them only as objects. And the reason for that is basically because I don't want to have you to actually add in any Outlook. You'll see there's no Outlook library in here, and we don't need to do that because we call that late binding. And basically late binding means we've set it here. Let's go ahead and pull that up. We've set it right here, set FSO. So here we've set to the file system, and here we will set to the hour. So this is late. You see how late in the code we are setting those objects, okay? What are they? Late, not early, okay? Early would be up here, and it's a bit different, but and then it requires a reference library to be attached. So I always like to do late binding because when I send out these applications, you don't require those references, okay? Let's go ahead and see. So we've also dimensioned long, long is whole numbers, okay? The last contact row and the contact row. So basically what I want to do is I want to run through all the rows, okay? And I want to see which ones don't have a reminder sent and then send those. Okay, we can add other variables like if the date is sent 1 day before or something, but for our purposes, I think we've covered that before under birthday reminders. So when the emails get sent based on date, you can check that as well. But in this case, we're only sending it based on whether it's been sent before or not. Back into the code we go. And we have a lot of strings. These strings are going to be used within our email or within our ICS file name. So we define them, and as well as we have some dates as far as the appointment date, the start and end time as dates. The first thing we'll do is we'll set that email subject. That is sheet 2 G4. Okay. Sheet 2 is here. G4 is our email subject, and we have G5 as our email message. So we've put those as strings, subject and message. And then we also want a date stamp. Remember, our ICS file requires a date stamp. Let me go ahead and pull that up again. Our ICS file requires a date stamp. That's the current date and current time. So we need that, so we have to get that as a variable as well. Date stamp as date. Okay, so we've now, and then we've given it a format. Let's look at this format. This format is the same format that we require in our ICS file. year, all right, 4 digits as year, 2 digits as month, 2 digits as day, then the T, 2 digits for the hour, 2 for the minutes, 2 for the seconds, and ending with a Z. Okay, you see how this format, right, also matches our format here, right? So we've matched the format because that's the format it requires, so that's the format we're going to use. All right, so you'll see this format in each of our formats, and both Google and ICS use the same type of format, so we're lucky with that. We can use both of them. So it's the same type of format for both the Google Calendar link and for the ICS file. So we've got the date stamp, and now with sheet 1, we're going to be working off sheet 1, so we want to set that. We need the last row of the table so we can run through all the rows. And then basically we're going to say, okay, from the contact row equals 5 to the last contact row. Okay, starting with 5 to the last contact row. And we're going to add stuff, we're going to add rows, so we may want to keep the last row as variable. So that's very important. Back into the code we go. So we're going to go 5 to the last row, and in this case the last row is 19. And here we're going to say, remember, we only want to do rows where the date has not been entered. We only want to focus on, we only want to send when the reminder has not been sent. So if this is empty, if N and the current row is empty, we want to send that email. And that's what this line covers. If N and the contact row does not equal empty, then we should continue with the sending the email. So that means if it's full, it's just going to be skipped. All of this, when you see here it's next row, so that means all of this. Everything from here to here is all going to be skipped, okay, if it's not empty. If it is empty, then we want to start working and defining. We want to set our last name to whatever's in column E. We want to send our first name in column F. We want to send the appointment date in G. So we're just basically going through each one of these. Column E, first name, column F, appointment date, appointment time, duration. So we're going to go through and we're going to define each of those. E and the contact row, F in the contact row, and so on and so forth. So we're going to just define all of these, okay, including the email address. So that's all this code is. And remember, appointment time, we actually, this particular appointment time, this one has a different format, right? Why is this different? The reason this one is different is because this is the one appointment time is the one I want to use inside the email. I want to use one inside the email. So if you remember correctly, when we create that email, right, I want one time formatted like this. One time. So the format for the time that we're going to use inside the email, I want to have this formatted like this. So that's why appointment time is different than start time, right? We've defined two because one we're going to use inside the email, and then the other one we're going to use inside the ICS and Gmail links, okay, our Google Calendar links. All right, so that's the reason why we have different formats, okay? So the appointment time and the appointment start, appointment end, all right, those are all set. And now start time and end time, those are going to be used in both the ICS file and the Google Calendar link. So those are formatted just like I've explained before, okay, Google Calendar. And now the next line is building this Google link, okay? I want to build the link, and we have to follow a certain format. Each Google Calendar link begins with this. So we've set this up, and then we have the text. The next part is the top of the text, scheduled appointment with Excel for. So this would be the subject. Next are the dates equal, and this is the start time. Start time. Then we have a backslash and end time. So when we build that Google Calendar link, let's go ahead and pull that up here. Here's the link. So we have our start time, right? Formatted properly with the backslash and then our end time. That's how we build this link. So we have that backslash, then we have the end time. Then we have details. Okay, you can put any details in here. Any details in here you want. And then basically it ends with this part of the link, and that's constant. So that means when we click on the link, let's go ahead and click on it now. And when you click on the link in Google, okay, let's go ahead and pull up a different browser. There we go. Let's see. I want it. Yeah, that one's fine. I can show you that. Let's take a look at that. And then you can see here, when you click on the link, scheduled appointments with freelancers. That's the top part. Okay, remember we can add location and lots of different numbers. And here we have the text and information. We have the time, the start time and end time, and we have the date. So it's all set. All we need to do is click save. So the person who receives your email and they want to put it in their Google, all they need to do is click the link and click save. It cannot be easier. And you can also set reminders and you can do lots of things with these Google links. So it's a really, really powerful tool. So we've built that link and it's a really simple. So we've taken variables from the appointment and built the link. And that is it. The last step for that link is Google cannot accept spaces. You see we have spaces here and here and here, right? Which is fine, except the links, when you send a link, you cannot use spaces. So we have to make sure one more line of code allows us to replace any spaces it finds with a plus. Okay, you'll see when the link was built, there's actually pluses inside the link itself, right? So when you, let's go ahead and pull that up. When you see the link here, okay, you will see that here, you see there's pluses here, plus here, plus here. So every single space inside the link gets replaced with plus, since we cannot use spaces in a link, okay? So every plus is automatically replaced with, every space is replaced with a link. But when you go ahead and click the link and it goes into Google Calendar, Google Calendar knows to take those pluses away and put back those spaces. Let's continue on with our code. So our Google link is created. That's how you do that for the adding something to the calendar. And now let's focus on the email, the subject email. We want to take our subject. Remember, our subject is here, right? We've added it. We know that it is been created all the way up here under sheet 2 G4. But our subject includes variables, and I want to replace those variables. I want to replace first name, anything that looks like this, with the actual first name. I want to replace anything that looks like last name with the actual last name. So this line of code allows us to replace all of these variable data with the actual data. All right, it replaces this text with the actual data. So we've done the same thing for both subject and message. So that line of code allows us to do that. Now, just this little bit of code here actually allows us to create our ICS file. And remember, H3 value equals yes, then include it, right? The reason we have this is because all I'm saying is H3, if the user has said, yes, I want to include the IC calendar, if this is yes, then we need to create it. Otherwise, we don't need to create it. So if they said yes, then we continue on with this part of the code. Okay, first of all, we're going to set FSO. It's basically a file system object. We want to create a file, right? In this case, I'm going to create an ICS file, but it could be a text file. It could be a few different file types, right? And now what I want to do is I want to say the ICS text, right, is sheet 2 and 4. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a start to the text. And I'll show you what that looks like right here. If we slide over, right, we have our ICS text format. And if we take a look at this is the same thing except for a few differentials. Look, instead of the actual date, we have a variable here. That's the current date. Instead of the actual start time, we have appointment. So we're going to use this and we're going to replace this information with the actual appointment start, with the actual appointment end, and that's formatted with the subject. So we're going to replace these things. So it's very simple. So we're going to take this template and we're going to create our ICS file from that template. Okay, so N4 is where that text is included. So first we find the text, and then again we take that text, we start it out here. This is the original text, and then we start replacing. Anywhere you see this text, you replace it with the actual date stamp. Anywhere you see appointment start, you replace it with the start time. And remember, start time is formatted, okay? It's formatted exactly the way we Google Calendar and ICS want to see it, okay? So it's already formatted. Same thing with end time. And then the email address and the subject, we can also replace those. Next, I want to give this ICS file a name, right? We want to, and what we're going to use is we're going to use the active workbook path, right? So we're going to add this to wherever your current workbook is located, because everybody's file path is different. Some use C drive, some use D drive. So we want to use a path that we know for sure exists. And we know you've saved your workbook in a certain folder, in a certain area. So we're going to use that one. Okay, so we're going to create this file in your current folder, and then we're going to delete it later when we don't need it. But just temporarily, we're going to add it, and we're going to give it the name called Add to Calendar. You can create any name for this you want, and we've given it the type, okay? So we've created it, we've created the text, and now we're going to set this file to actually create. We've given it the name here, and now we're going to create a file, set O file, okay? We're going to create the name. First we create the file, and now this line of code actually writes. So at this point we have a blank file. It's an empty file. We have a file called add to calendar ICS, but it's blank. At this point it's blank. So now we need to add text to it. This line of code adds text. Right line. Okay, that adds text. And what are we going to? What text are we going to add? We're going to add this ICS test, right? ICS text. This adds the line to that code. This simply closes the file. Once we've added it, we're going to close it. Then we're just going to clean up these two lines of code, clean it up. Then now we're done. We've created our ICS file and we've stored it in a location, and it includes the text. So we're set with that. Okay. Next, we're going to create our email. Okay, these two lines, this one creates the Outlook application. This one creates an Outlook email. Okay, now we're going to say with those email to the email address, the person that we've set the email. And now we're going to say if sheet 2 equals yes. That means if they have said sheet 2 H3 equals yes, remember that's up here too, that says yes, we do want to include, then attachments add ICS file name. Remember, ICS is the full path of the file, the full path, okay? Because we've set that file name right here, the full path. So we're going to add it, okay? Then we go ahead and add the subject, the message, and once again, we need to know whether we should send this email right away or should we display it. If B4 is 2, remember, true. B4, remember, B4 is here. Scroll over, B4. If this is true, then we need to display the email first. Okay. If sheet 2 B4 equals true, then display. And if it's not true, we're just going to send it. Okay. If it's not true, we're going to send. All right. And that's it. Then we're just going to use 2 lines to clean up that email. And then we're going to say, then we need to enter the date. Since the email has been created, we need to make sure that we don't send it twice. So N and the contract row equals now. Now is the current date and current time, right? N, right? And the current row equals the current date and current time. So we're just going to enter it right there. And the last bit of code is that I want to remove the ICS file. Since it's been attached to the email already, we can remove it. So when it's attached to the email, it's actually added to a different file in Outlook, or so you don't need it back on your folder. So I want to delete it. So we're going to say is basically if they've said yes, clear. What I want to do is I want to delete that file because it's just temporary. So kill means delete the file. And then I want to just clear any existing text, okay? Because I want to make sure as we're looping through it, I don't want to get confused. I want to make sure that the text is cleared out and the file is clear so that when we move on to the next row or next contact, everything's clear and clean. Okay, so that's a nice way. And that is it for the code. That's how we create the Google link. That's how we create the ICS file. And it's super, super powerful. So simply deleting these and then click send reminder. Emails will automatically create an email. It will add easily click to add to the calendar very simply, and also click to add to a Google calendar also easily. For the people who receive your emails, they can quickly get to those, add those to their own calendars, which is a really powerful step that's only used by very professional and very expensive software, but now you can do it for free through Excel. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share it as much as you can. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, and I do appreciate everything. Thank you so much.